Hello everybody and welcome to Sonic Talk episode 666. That's why I've got the smoke machine running it doesn't seem to be doing the thing that I thought it was going to do. In fact, everything stopped working. That's awesome. Now I'm stuck in red and I can't switch any of the isn't that brilliant? So that really has backfired, but for some reason, how weird. Okay, that has actually stopped working. That is the weirdest thing. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to unplug. This is the first time this has ever happened. This is Sonic Talk. Welcome to Sonic Talk. Sonic Talk. There we go. That's better. I beg your pardon. I can take this off, but I can prove to you I have got smoke going. If I just blow a bit more smoke out, it's actually it's not. It doesn't smell of anything, unfortunately. But every time I press the button, there must be some kind of serious, I don't know what it is, regulator in here, and it killed all my monitors. So the show went black, and it obviously killed the USB. There must be this massive interference. But there's the smoke. Episode 666. Yeah, this is a podcast to do with not technical issues, though one might be might think otherwise generally. But to do with music technology, music production, sampling, software, all of those kind of things. And we've made it to 666. It's astonishing, isn't it? We're also available on Spotify, Stitcher, Google, iTunes, Alexa, all of those kind of places. You can listen to it in audio if you wish. And also, if you want to support us, you can support us on Patreon. We've been posting a couple of things up there recently. I've got a preview of the Circuit Tracks review. I've got some patches from Pigments 3, a whole bunch of stuff up there. If you want to support us, just head over to patreon.com/Sonicstate, and that will give you options to support us, and we much appreciate the people who do, and all of those things. I want to say a quick one. I don't know if that's going to show up. Does it? Yeah, 666. Who was that who put that? Somebody put, it's Wagyu put £6.66 into the super chat, which is very apt because episode 666 as far as we got. Anyway, welcome everybody. I'm going to go first to my Dominic Hawken. There he goes. True 666 fashion. Rock and roll. Right. Dominic Hawken, aka Mr. Wiggly, who is maker of the I can't remember what it's called now. It's the
it's called the Incinerator. It's called the Incinerator.
Right. And we had Dominic on last week where we boosted his Twitter followers. He ran a competition. In fact, he might be bringing out the winners today on the show. I don't know. Is that true?
A little later on. That should be fine. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to find where is it? It's real.
It went to 200 followers, or 194 or something. Just amazing, from 10, which is just blown away. The power of Sonic Talk.
That almost feels, there we go. There it is. That almost feels like I could use that in advertising literature. Anyway, lovely to have you, Dom. Lovely to have you, Dom.
I might have to take this off in a minute because it's super hot. Yeah, I'm really, really good, actually. The plugin's been going really well. Took a couple of days off, and just really, really good, actually. I tell you what, with the sun out, everyone's just smiling. It makes a completely different kind of vibe to going outside, which was lovely. So really, I haven't been doing much musicality stuff other than plug-in tweaks and stuff, but getting outside was really nice. I hadn't been out for a bit, so yeah, really, really, really good. Can't complain at all.
Good, I'm glad to hear it. And I feel like I'm feeling very naked now. I'm seeing you with a full head of hair.
It's weird. It's weird with hair.
Very weird. Yeah.
I might just keep it.
You might just keep it.
It looks really cool. I mean, that's the thing. I look great. So,
ask your wife whether she thinks it looks great before you make that final judgment. Anyway, also we have Mr. Charles Chicky Reeves, who's there in his studio in London, in front of his console. That's the TLA, isn't it? I think.
It is TLA VTC 24.
Excellent. Well, Charles' mixer. We haven't had him on for a while because Charles has been busy doing mixing stuff. Doing a lot of work. So, how are you, Charles? You've been busy. Well, you have been busy. How are things?
I have been busy. Yeah, it's been great. I've been mixing, doing a lot of remixing. I've had a couple of remix clients where I've had to do stuff completely analog because they just as a experiment, they wanted to see what it was like. So I was using my K2000 and my Juno and everything, going through analog preamps straight to tape, and that's been a lot of fun trying to get that done the old-fashioned way, which is sort of sampling stuff instead of putting it in the computer and doing that.
Yeah, weren't you on at the same time when we did the the kind of tape issue with Jamie.
Yes. Yeah.
And you were, yeah, that's right. Okay. So that led to a bit more, hey, can we do that? And you just think, oh, crikey, now I've got to get the mag gun out and the isopropyl and all that stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I've been doing that. And I've also, I teach mixing. Yeah. So that's been keeping me busy. And, and I wanted to say, I kind of wish I'd waited to be not for this show, but 2 shows from now, so I could be on 668, the neighbor of the beast. Thank you. That's the pun for the day.
That's assuming you're on one of those streets where it's odd numbers and even numbers on the side. If you're
American
actually
style.
one that does that, which is weird because you get up to sort of on a really long road, you get up to 5,000, and then you come back and it's hard to find. Very tricky.
Okay, I've made the bad pun for the day, though. So
no, that's okay. I appreciate it. Bad puns are always welcome. You never know. You never know when you're going to need a bad pun, and we may need one today. You never know. But yeah, I want to say hello to all our friends over on the YouTube and the YouTubes. There we go. Sonicstate/live. That's youtube.com/live. And also IRC, we've got them back. And also our Discord and Facebook Live. We should have Facebook Live running as well. I believe it is, but it welcomes you all. I can't bring that chat in. I think that chat comes in via this page somewhere. I think it's connected, but people don't tend to comment so much on that one. Anyway, let's get going. We got news this week. There's been movers and shakers in the world of the synth.
Hi everyone, Dave Smith here with some really exciting news from Sequential. I was just realizing that it was 50 years ago that I graduated from Cal Berkeley with a degree in electrical engineering and computer science. And wow, what a trip it has been since that day. I never could have predicted what was going to happen and what has happened. But here I find myself 50 years later announcing the fact we are becoming part of the Focusrite family. Focusrite makes such good...
Yeah, you get it. Big news. We did hear on the grapevine, sort of internally behind the scenes, that something was afoot with the whole kind of Sequential, and they were maybe kind of being acquired, and we had all sorts of kind of harebrained ideas who it might be, but in fact it's Focusrite. Focusrite have bought Sequential, which is great. I mean, Dave Smith is like 73 now, probably thinking, I don't want to have to deal with all the crap about running a business. Maybe he can now just be, I'm sure he doesn't have to do so much of that now these days. So maybe now he's just going to concentrate on coming up with funky ideas and designs. This is actually really big news, and it feels like a pretty good fit. Novation obviously have taken a bit of a hit because Chris Huggett, who was behind a lot of their synth designs, sadly passed away, and that's meant that their genius boffin is kind of means maybe there's been some hold-ups in their own synth stuff. I mean, I could be wrong, but having all this expertise coming into the company maybe will change things enormously. I know, Charles. Have you got some Sequential stuff? I can't remember whether you have or not.
I've got a Rev 2 right now.
Yeah, well, good choice. Nice synth.
Yeah, I love it. I use it on just about everything. Yeah, it's funny because in this video you can see that he's quite a subdued guy, but it's still, he's enthusiastic, and I think that what you said about bringing in all this expertise, because he is an older guy, but the thing is he's really good at building a team around him and bringing all those people on board with what Novation's already doing. I think this could be a fantastic combination. I'm really excited to see what they come up with. Because they're both great companies. I'm speaking specifically of Novation. I mean, Focusrite, fine, but I do like the Novation stuff, which I've got a few pieces here and there. And like I said, I have the Rev 2, and just imagine a combination of even those two existing pieces of technology in one machine would be fantastic. I'd love it.
Well, I think, it doesn't say it's a merge at the moment. At least they're saying that, that basically Sequential are just going to be brought into the Focusrite umbrella because they have other brands as well. And I think it's going to be run as a separate thing. I don't know how much, cross-pollination is immediately planned, but maybe that would be the case at some point in the future. I know, I was surprised. I thought, personally, it might be Yamaha because of the Yamaha owning the trade and that kind of goodwill that existed between them. And also Yamaha themselves, they've got a lot of engineering experience, but they're not putting a lot into maybe analog synthesizers at the moment. But yeah, it wasn't. It's Focusrite. I know, Dom. You got what have you got? Have you got any from either brand?
Well, I've got a load of DSI stuff. I've got my Prophet 6 is my favourite, and an OB6. And what else have I got innovation wise? I've got Supernova from way back, and I mean, yeah, a big fan of both really. And I mean, this is it's good news. It's really good news. It's giving an epic man and his history a pension, which is important, I think. I mean, I don't know if he's a multi-billionaire or not, but it's really hard when you are the focus of everything and everything comes from you. You're really the value in the company, and it's very hard to monetize that sometimes and get something solid in the bank, particularly if you haven't got solid kind of recurring revenue. If you're basically selling your synths every time you make a new one, and generally the way to make more revenue is to make another synth, that's a tough position to be in sometimes when you're well beyond retirement age and everything. And I think that's put a chunk of cash hopefully in his bank account that allows him to worry less about the future and his family and so on, and also a chunk of cash behind potentially new releases and so on. So, and ultimately it's clearly not a merger. They are clearly two separate entities, and ultimately I'm sure that will move together, particularly if he starts taking a bit more of a back seat on the whole thing. But it is a really common problem in successful companies where they are geared so much around one man, Apple being the biggest example of a huge multi-billion one, but even down to small agencies or advertising agencies and stuff where a creative guy gets a name for it. And you say, well, if I leave, you know, your stock plummets, not just your stock on the market, but you know, the weight behind you and the belief in you would completely. So if he said, right, I'm going to retire, guys, cheers, and don't worry, innovation have taken over, it'd be a completely different situation.
Well, that's true.
So,
I suppose the thing is, innovation, Focusrite at least have this kind of have gone through this because obviously Phil Dudderidge, you know, was the main guy behind a lot of the Focusrite stuff, the engineer. So they've been through this process, and Phil's still around. You know, I mean, hasn't retired, but I think he stepped back. You know, he there was a guy called Giles Orford who ran the company for a while, and so you know he's been moving away from the day-to-day stuff. So I guess they know how that works, and Focusrite themselves have gone kind of public. You know, their stock. There was a report about how much cash they had in the bank, and they sort of needed to do something with it. And they bought Adam, the speaker manufacturer, and they've bought now they bought Sequential. No idea how much they paid, but I'm hoping it's a considerable amount. But I guess the other thing is it means the employees of Sequential are secured as well because
Exactly that, and there'll be. I mean, I did something a little similar with one of our companies where we were bought out, and you're locked into an earn-out period, which is in this it's absolutely perfect because he will have committed a certain amount of years. This is not cut and thrust business. This is just if you're a public company and you do these kind of things, in order to justify the transaction to the board, you actually have to have these contractual obligations in place. So he will be locked in for 5 years or whatever the thing will be, and I'm sure he wants to be. And his payout will probably be geared around that. But ultimately, I'm sure, and hopefully it's done like this. It will have given him a chunk of cash which he can invest and live off, and he doesn't actually have to worry. Whether he had to worry before, I don't know, but everyone tends to worry about their income no matter how high it is, and this will basically allow him to just concentrate on what he wants to do. And exactly the same as you, running a company when it gets to that kind of size is a full-time job, let alone coming up with synths and making sure that they all work. So clearly he's good at building teams, and he should be, he's been through the mill enough to know what a good deal is as well. So it feels cool. And I'm certainly for the next few years, I'm sure they'll be operating, and Focusrite should keep them operating as a completely separate entity, not just a separate brand.
Yeah, well, they've been doing. I was looking at the some of the financials, and they're up sort of 93%. Focusrite, $24 million, $18 million quid. It looks like was the figure, which is a considerable sum of money. Nice one.
Yeah.
I was going to say one last thing though. That I think it's really good that they've decided to do business with. I'm not going to call out any names here, but they decided to do business with a company that won't really cheapen their brand at all.
Right.
They're a solid company. They both make great products. So I found very personally, that made me very happy to hear.
Yeah, well, I agree. I mean, it feels like some good news, and it's nice to see that there's some news, and it feels sort of benign. There's no kind of hostile takeover stuff. It's obviously something they've been talking about a long time. So yeah, good for them. And Dave is a lovely guy. When I first interviewed him, I think it was at NAM many years ago. And I just thought, because I'd never met him before, I said, what a really, really nice guy. I mean, this was back when we were 4:3 aspect ratio. That's how long ago I interviewed him. So yeah, nice. I'm very pleased for Dave. It's good news all round. Okay, so what else have we got? Let's get on to. Oh yeah, this came up. This was. I'll play a bit of this. I'm not sure how much is conveyed in the video. This is the Loopmasters thing. They've released Loopcloud version 6, which, as we know, has been sort of going. Well, it's up to version 6. We generally had them in, and they've been demoing the features. In this version, they've added this sort of AI tone matching, spectral matching, harmonic matching of samples, and rhythmic matches, so you can find some samples, they could be your own, and then have them matched with other stuff, so you immediately know what might fit, which seems like a really kind of intelligent use of AI, I guess. And as we know, Loopcloud is a paid service. You get a free version, but I like the way they did Octaviding on this guy's rap voice. I think it's Octaviding. Anyway, that was really beside the side. Dom, you're into coding. There's AI thing. We do briefly touch on it once in a while, and it feels like this feels like a really good way of utilizing that kind of technology in terms of how that might work.
Totally. I mean, I use Loopcloud a lot, and I also use a couple of other kind of sample comparison manipulation things, if I can remember what they are. Oxomake, when I think I'll have a look in a second. I'll come back to it. But yes, and the other thing that Loopcloud have, because it kind of depends what AI they're using, is they must be amassing a load of data about people who use this sample also use this sample. So the recommendation engine that comes out of things like Spotify and what have you, which is, do you like this song as well? You're pretty likely to, because 100,000 other people who like this song as well. And that's, to me, is a form of AI anyway, because it's intelligence based on data that you've gathered and that you're processing. And they've been around up to version 6 now for long enough to be able to do that kind of stuff. And then the other thing that hopefully this is beginning to address is that it's kind of easy enough to compare kick drums. So, you can do technically a fast Fourier transform on one of those things, and it will tell you the frequency content and how bassy it is, and whether it's got a click on the front, and how long it is, and all that kind of stuff, and what frequency the bass note of it is. And so you can pull together, as long as you've got enough processing power, a comparison list of kick drums. And generally what happens is, in the background on that stuff, it's kind of processing away and making a big list really of this kick drum has all these similar in this kind of order. So that's easy, but it's harder to do on rhythmic stuff, or on stuff that evolves, or, this loop is similar to this loop is actually hard to do. Because you can do all the technical aspects and think about the frequency, but you might end up with a kind of trip hop loop versus a house loop if you're not careful, just because sonically they fill the same space,
right? And
your algorithm might say, well, these are pretty similar, have a look at this. But I
suppose you've got all the other tags and things that would go along with that kind of
yeah, it definitely helps. But if someone's uploaded a sample, or because with the sound, with the Loopcloud stuff, you can upload your own sounds into it. And that's one of the nice things about it. So it can manage your entire library. So it don't really know about, I never tag half my stuff. So AI should be able to look at it and go, actually, well, almost like the feel of this, or the nuance of this is laid back, or whatever, in the same way that I've always been amazed at Shazam. I mean, I saw a demo of Shazam literally years ago, probably 20-something years ago, very, very early days of the internet. Couldn't work out how it was doing it. So that their ability to identify stuff and the algorithms they use can be applied, I'm sure, in a similar way to this kind of thing. But this AI that they're using, I'm sure, is based on a critical mass of users as well. So the more users, the better.
I mean, they've got a lot of people. I think they've probably been collecting that data for a long, long time, because people have been using Loopcloud. And Loopcloud is was one of the first ones to kind of pipe the live application into the DAW session via a plugin, which makes it a lot more contextually relevant. I mean, because as we know, I mean, we've all told stories about, you know, the 6-hour search for the perfect snare back in the day in a $200 an hour studio. I mean, that's no longer relevant. And for a lot of people, this kind of works as a starting point. You know, I mean, people are often very poo-poo about using samples and loops, but actually when you're working fast and you're writing stuff, you might want to throw it really, really quick together just so it gets the juices flowing and then replace it with other stuff later. It doesn't have to all be built, you know, in that sort of way.
Totally.
You know,
and I mean, I got no problem about using samples either. I mean, if I'm going to take a 4-bar loop with a tune and a bass line on it and sing over the top, that's slightly different. But, you know, almost everything I build up is either, you know, based fundamentally on samples or laying stuff together. And the kick drum example in dance stuff is a really good example, because there are billions of kick drums around, and if you've just got an array of varied names on a hard drive, it's really, really hard. Or snare drums as well, you know, finding something with a similar character. And it's never ever worked beyond that. It's never been, now find me a loop like this. I've never found anything that does that. And so this really is kind of next level stuff. If it can get close enough, then, you know, you won't end up with your old favorites or the ones you go, oh yeah, I remember, yeah, let's see if I can find that one. Suddenly it'll open up a whole
I suppose I know the thing about AI and algorithmic stuff is is sometimes you can end up with this kind of mean state, can't you, whereby everything is, you know, you've got the kind of winner because the deviation from the median is kind of what the AI kind of figures out. I mean, I'm paraphrasing because I don't know anything about it really, but you can end up with this sort of like band of mediocrity if you're not careful, I suppose.
Yes, I agree. You know, and you know, based on also what you were saying earlier, like this is something I really could have used years ago, because I've got terabytes of sample banks, just sorting through all of it and spending forever. It's the fact that you can use this to analyze what you already have. That's great. It is a little, you know, like I think Dom, you were saying earlier about the, you know, about them, you know, collecting data. So, you know, if 100,000 people have liked this, or that well, to me, that's like, I don't use loops at all, and it's not. I have nothing against them. I just don't really anymore. But I will probably go back through a phase of doing it again. It's just right now I'm into making stuff with synths instead. But if 100,000 people are using a particular sample or something that sounds like it, that's the kind of thing that would sort of push me away from wanting to use it.
Right.
Like, you know, because how do you stand out above the noise otherwise? So, but like I said, being able to analyze the sample library that you already have, and being able to sort of, I guess, tag it in a way, that's very useful to me. That in itself would make something like this really useful. I don't know if I'd use it to pull stuff that they have off their servers, but certainly to analyze what I already have, and because it'd be more than an FFT. Wouldn't it? It would
guess, yeah. There must be the energy of frequency
clear.
Content and the spacing of the transients when you've, you know, when you're a certain fixed BPM. I guess all of that stuff will come into play. You know, those are the sort of things that will probably.
And like Dom said, you know, it could end up with a house loop when you're trying to get trip hop or vice versa. You know, so yeah. Excuse me, sorry, allergies. I don't know that I would use this for anything else, but I would be interested in using this for analyzing my own massive sample library.
I mean, I did say that it does, and but I should probably double check that, because I don't actually because I know certain aspects of the Loopcloud AI stuff or the engine doesn't apply to your own samples. You can catalog them and you can store some of them in the cloud. There's all sorts of stuff there, but they went from, because it used to be you could just buy some points and have them sitting there at credit, and now they've gone like everybody into subscription, which kind of makes sense for a lot of people. But I suppose this could be a precursor of, you know, longer analysis. So you could basically just kind of go, well, I've got this sad feeling something or other tone, and I want to bring the other elements in to build a soundtrack around a scene that I'm doing for a movie or some TV drama or something. You've got this kind of recommendation. I mean, we're not far away from that, I guess. Those are the
sentiment.
If you're building something like, if you have to do something really quick, I imagine that this would be really great for that. If you have to really throw something together fast, and it has to, you know, have a certain sonic signature, and be, of a certain quality. I think it'd be great for that. I can't see myself using it just yet, but I also, if I get a brief and my deadline is in 2 days and it's 10 tracks in 2 days, which I have gotten briefs like that, then yeah, I would probably up my subscription and have access to the stuff and throw stuff together as fast as I could.
Yeah, no, interesting. In fact, I used one of the samples, a vocal sample. I grabbed a vocal sample. I was just looking for a key. I didn't use any of the IO stuff. I haven't got that upgraded to that, but to throw into the circuit. So anyway, Loopcloud, just interesting use of. It sort of feels like a non-threatening use of AI and something that we're always looking for these things that make things easier rather than just too creatively suggested, I suppose. Let's just take a break there.
Isotope Producers Club is a one-of-a-kind membership for producers ready to take their tracks to the next level. Once you join, you'll gain access to powerhouse isotope plugins and a curated selection of tools from our partners, such as Melodyne from Celemony. Plus, as long as you're a member, you'll get every future update to the isotope plugins in your membership for no extra cost. We'll also regularly serve you new curated content like exclusive inspiration-sparking sample packs and preset packs, and industry-leading training ranging from our own tutorials to vocal production lessons from the world-renowned Berklee Online, taught by Grammy-winning producer and engineer Prince Charles Alexander. With new content being added every month full of valuable production techniques, tips and tricks, and solutions to common production problems, becoming a member is an investment in your career that grows as you and your career do. For more information on Isotope Producers Club, head to isotope.com.
And of course, they do have a couple of subscriptions. You've got the Music Production Suite and the Producers Club Pro, which has got RX Pro if that's what you need. And just to remind you, you can also save 10% on any Isotope products, not subscriptions and not hardware, if you head over to isotope.com/sonictalk and use the code SONIC10 at checkout to save 10% on any Isotope plugin or bundle. We're very pleased to have them continuing to support the podcast, even as we get to 666. You'd think everybody wouldn't want to be involved in one of those, but hey, we're going to do it. Right, let's say, what were we going to have a look at next? I'm keen. I suppose we should probably do the Apple news thing because it's that time of year when they announce their new products, and it's been an interesting kind of week. If you're interested in this sort of stuff, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but these are the new iMacs, which they look kind of like an iPad on a stick to me. I mean, I'm not really quite sure why you'd want an iMac that thin. I'd rather have it thicker and have more connection ports and points on it, but hey. And then we've got the iPad Pro, which is super, it's got an M1 chip in it, and you can spend like up to $2,000 on an iPad Pro, which just seems kind of a bit pointless because there aren't any pro apps to it. So I don't want to go too long down that line, but I still wouldn't mind one of their M1 chips. And I think there were news on I think M2 chip is also in production, maybe coming some announcements a bit later on. I don't know. Dom, you're a Mac user, I guess. I don't know whether you've got an iMac or, it just feels like
I've
that
got
iMac is a bit of a weird beast. Was that thin? You can't see how thin it is. You're in front of it. What's the point?
Yeah, it's weird. I've got one of those the dead end round, really expensive black Mac Pros, which I've had for a long time. Was horrendously expensive. Trash can Macs, yeah. And way overspec'd and has lasted brilliantly, and I love it. Luckily, I got just hugely overspec'd, and I was a fortune, but it's paid off in the long term, and it still runs brilliantly. But I can't really upgrade it, which is the problem with all of those things. But it's been really good to me. I've got an iMac. None of these are M1s. These are all quite old now. I've got an iMac in the office that I used to code on with a big screen. And I've got an older Mac Pro laptop, and I love the way everything works together. And I from a geeky point of view, I love the way it kind of talks Unix, and I can type at servers and do coding. And it's just nice. And I held back from upgrading because I want an M1. Now you've said M2. Obviously, I'll hold back again for that one, and I'll never get there in the end. But they haven't got me yet, and for the same reasons that you've just said. I'm an avid user of iPads and iPhones, and my daughter's just iPad crazy. So we really have kind of drunk the Kool-Aid on the whole Mac thing for a long time. And they haven't got me yet on the M1. There's not a machine out there. I think if I was going to buy one, would probably be the Mac Mini, specced up to the eyeballs. But that's not, hasn't tempted me enough. But if I had a project to do and my Mac broke and had to go out and buy one tomorrow, then that's what it would be. But I want to wait for, not necessarily the M2s, but I just want to wait for the Pro version, I think, to come out. I would definitely get the iMac to go in my office if that one failed. That's becoming a little ancient now, and I can't remember what release it was, but it's doing fine, but you can see it's kind of creaking a little bit, so at some stage that'll get replaced. And it's a great office machine. I don't think I'd use the iMac in the studio though. It just doesn't feel right. Plus the fact I've got one of those Raven touchscreen things that I use for, it integrates with Logic, and you can do that, so I kind of need that screen in front of me. So that would kind of negates that. But no, I'll wait. But from what I can see, pretty much all of them would blow my original Mac Pro overspec'd, very expensive machine out the water, really. So but the thing is, you've had it for years and years. So it's in terms of an investment. Yes. I know, Charles. I don't know whether I think your Mac, you're not don't use any other flavour, but any of this kind of, it feels a bit like an interim. It doesn't feel like it's any of the stuff that any of us might want.
Yeah, I'm still running an Apple II CI with a Studio Vision on optical interface here.
Good for you.
No, I have the trash can Mac, and but I'm running I use that as like as a mastering thing. But my whole studio is run on an iMac Pro, which I love. It's fine. It's more than fine. It's really fast. I do have a client of mine who upgraded his studio using the Mac Mini with the M1 chip in it, and he had the same computer I have, and he said, yeah, it's amazingly fast. The only thing it doesn't have is it doesn't come with a 5K screen and all that stuff, so he had to pony up for that in a different way. But this I'm not tempted by any of this, and I've got 18 Apple devices in my household. Wow. And I'm just not tempted by this at all. But it's only because it just feels like, yes, it is an improvement. It doesn't feel like enough of an improvement to warrant.
It feels very much like lifestyle stuff they're selling here, rather than actual kind of things you might need. Apart from the Pro HDX screen, which is a 6K screen, which looks lovely, but that's very, very expensive. But it should be. I mean, it's those kind of monitors are expensive. I don't know, but
yeah. I can't see myself, making the jump just yet to a new processor.
Good. Well, I think we've covered that. I think I had to mention it because it's, it's this time of year and that kind of stuff happens. And thank you to all of those folks in the chat room, Adamski A and Wagyu, another 666. Wow. That's just, you're being very generous. I'm looking forward to the time where we can all get together and start to spend this money on some kind of entertainment for our panelists, where we're all in the same place, imbibing food or drink or whatever it may be. Okay. Let's get on to, this one. I think, I forgot to put the blooming, is it this one?
Hey, everyone.
No, it's not this one. I forgot what it was. Which one was it?
Hey, everyone.
Baby, yeah, there we go.
This time on
This is Tim Talks Audio,
check out
and this is the
Operator by
Smooth
Baby
Operator.
Audio. Baby Audio has already released a number of different time-based plugins out there, including Spaced Out. They also have Super VHS and a whole lot more. Now they're
I'm going to fast forward this because this is a very interesting sort of resonance suppression plugin, which allows you to. It looks like a dynamic EQ, but it's more than that. I'm trying to find, so you can create these curves, and the further down it comes, the more processing it. You can also solo the frequencies it's working on and change the rate and the amplitude and the frequency of what it's doing. It's called Smooth Operator. It seems like a really interesting idea, actually. And I don't know. I know, Charles, you're a big fan of dynamic EQs, right? This looks like something that is quite. It's an interesting window on perhaps existing technologies, but it seems like a really good representation of how to make it work.
Yeah, it would replace. So I use for almost all my side chaining stuff. I mean, it depends on the effect I'm going for. Almost all side chaining I do using Track Spacer from Waste Factory. So it would replace that, just because for those of you who don't know about Track Spacer, it has a very unique way of of doing sidechain stuff. So it only sidechains the specific frequencies that are part of the input. And you can choose which, if, like, say for instance, a bass versus a kick drum, you can just focus on, so what's being compressed is just the low end of the bass, as opposed to all of the bass being dipped down. So this would do that. This also, it's it's a multi-band compressor.
They call it a resonance suppressor.
Yeah, it's quite unusual. I haven't heard anything quite like this. And when I first saw when I was reading the blurb about it, it's like, oh, this will, everything about it just sounded like, a lot of like, we'll take your music to the next level, that kind of stuff, which is like, yeah, whatever, But it really does actually sound really good. I've seen some other examples of it online, and people will put it on and I think, oh, it just sounds quieter, or it just sounds duller or something like that. But on that video you were just showing a clip of, and a couple of other videos, the really great examples that it really does balance out various things within a mix quite well. And this goes back to what we were talking about earlier with the, like, something about the fast Fourier transform, the FFT stuff, is that, like, say for some mastering assistants or some EQ assistant plugins will take a section of music and they'll analyze it, and then they apply this thing to the average of what that time period is.
Right. This
seems to constantly be readjusting, which they said it readjusts at 44.1K. So I hope that
that's
the EQ
44,000 times a second. Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully that means that it won't only work at 44.1 kilohertz, but still, even so, that's really quite an adjustment. And to have something that is that temporally locked in, is such a nice feature. And it's cheap too. It's what, $39.
I think it's $39 from 69. I've got the website here. This is a sort of illustration of this isn't automation. I think this is sort of moving. Although I guess you might be able to automate it. It just looks kind of like an interesting idea, I must admit. I think we might be lining up to have a presentation with these guys in the future, and they got in touch, and I'd not been aware of it. And I just thought, there were a couple of other videos, like you said, where this guy's going, this is actually really cool, and he, an experienced mixer and producer, and he's going, well, look, see what this is doing to just a vocal, and it really kind of takes some of the resonance sibilance. It could be used like a de-esser, it can be used like a kind of de-bodifier, or this sort of dynamic filtering is the interesting thing. Yeah, Dominic, I mean, you now code plugins. This seems like a pretty nifty thing, and it's just a very, very simple interface. It's very elegant.
It's super cool. There is another on the market by, I think they're OEK Sound is how you pronounce it, OEK Sound, called Soothe 2, which is, it's probably one of the best plugins you've never heard of, but it comes at a hefty price tag. It's £179, and it's been out for a while. Obviously, Soothe 1 came before it, and it is a dynamic resonance suppressor. It's part of what this plugin offers. So you can override it and do stuff, but generally I have it and I use it, and pretty much if you turn it on and turn it up, it reduces all the resonancy kind of peaks that you'd get. And it's quite a nice tool to have. And that's the resonance suppression bit. So it's kind of cool. If you've got, say, Q3, the Fab Filter Q3 EQ, you can see the waveform, and you can see that the spikes going on and what's sticking out. So if you're looking at a vocal, and if you hover the mouse over it, it will just freeze and allow the peaks to grow. So it's very easy to see, oh, look, there's a big spike around 3K there. I'll just easily pull that down, and FabFilter does that beautifully. Soothe 2 does it automatically, so that it can just kind of get rid of that stuff and soothe everything out. What it doesn't do is any of the sidechain type stuff. I use a plugin called what's it called? Sweet Sonics Laser. It's called Laser by a company called Sweet Sonics, and that's purely for percussion stuff. But again, it will do, rather than on a side chain, rather than just ducking the volume. So you've got your kick drum running and your string sounds going over the top, rather than just pulling down the volume of the strings every time the kick hits off. Just like Charles was saying about Track Spacer, it just removes the frequency of the kick. So dynamically, it just makes space for that kick drum by just pulling out a picture of the kick drum every time. So all the top end stays there. It's not just a global dynamic tuck. And that was quite cheap, I think.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this.
It's gone up again.
I don't know.
So it's kind of got that as well, but it sounds like it's doing that not just for a transient, not just for a kick drum. It's kind of able to take two signals and go, right, this is my master track and I'm going to chop everything out to fit this in, which is just perfect for doing vocals and stuff. It makes the space by just removing the bits that it needs. So I'm all over this because, if nothing else, it's, dare I say, it's got the Mr. Wiggly mantra of cheapness to it, because, Soothe 2 is 180 quid. Sorry, I think I lost. Yeah, Soothe 2 is 180 quid, and Sweet Sonics was $99 or something. And this is very, very cost effective. So if it does what it says, this is a beautiful thing. And on the technical side, it's perfectly possible to do this. It will use a decent amount of processing power to get it, depending on how hard you're working it. But you can analyze very easily in real time the frequencies within a sound, and as they change, and you can then remove. Basically, you're doing that twice. You're doing it to the original signal, you're doing it to your side chain signal, and you're just removing one from the other. So
right.
It's not a simple thing, but it's perfectly doable in real time like that, at the cost of some CPU. So yeah, really nice to have this all in one plugin doing something that I think most people do, but with a combination of stuff without realizing it.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. When we've talked about this before about creating space around things, it definitely, it just looked really cool. And like I say, I think we might have a feature coming up with them sometime in the future. It's not been booked in or anything yet, but I think we might be able to do that. Okay, I should also, let's just have a little bit of a message from our friends over at Modal Electronics. Of course, the Cobalt 8. Which I reviewed. Really like the Cobalt 8 actually. Cobalt 8 has 8 voice extended virtual analog. It's innovative oscillator with 34 algorithms, morphable 4-pole ladder filter, 29 endless encoders for real-time control, internal sequencer and arpeggiator MPE support, which is really good on this, and modal app for Mac, Windows, OS, Android, and VST3AU. If you want to find out some more, head over to modalelectronics/get. bit.ly/get_modal. What am I saying? Yeah. Thank you very much to them for supporting the show. Right. What was next? Right. I guess we could talk about Al Schmitt. Al Schmitt, massively influential engineer, sort of. His career has lasted throughout kind of the golden era and the changes of through audio recording and working way back. He originally started out working on 78 records, right up to the 21st century, working with digital and whatnot. 23 Grammys, massively influential guy. I must confess, I don't know all that much about him. He passed away recently, age of 90. I think he was 91 or 93. So he's had a good innings, and I know that it seems to. Yoad mentioned it in the notes, and I know Charles, you mentioned it as well. Legendary engineers, there are not many of them around, right?
That's right. And I knew him.
Ah, okay. Too. Well, because he's very big on orchestral stuff, wasn't he? Which I guess maybe you learned some stuff from him. I don't know. I'm making.
I did. Well, I first met him in 2016, and I would say that. Like whenever anyone asks me, how I learned to mix, even though I had been mixing for many years before I met him, I credit him with teaching me how to actually mix music.
Wow. Okay.
He was a master craftsman, and he was a really, really great human being. And it's quite sad that he's gone, and I sort of selfishly thought he'd live forever, his talking about his approach to mixing, he'd mix a song really fast. It was all about just getting the right mic technique, push the faders up, listen through the song a couple times to know what's going to happen, and then just run it off. He was like, okay, on to the next song. He didn't really EQ that much, didn't compress that much. But so yes, master craftsman, everything. But my God, what a wonderful.
That seems to be a recurring theme. Actually, lots of people saying he's a really lovely guy, and I'm like I say, I've got no experience of him. I've not, but I mean, he worked with Presley, worked with Count Basie, worked with Sinatra, worked with the entire kind of range. Paul McCartney, the big guns. He was the kind of the guy you
Al
bring
Jarreau,
in.
Steely Dan,
Aja.
Toto.
Wow. I thought Aja was Massenburg. I thought George Massenburg did a whole bunch, but maybe that was a different. That was Little Feat. I think perhaps maybe I got them confused.
Well, also with Aja, I asked Al. I think his mix was what was used for sure with Peg, and I asked him about, because there was that that famous part where Michael McDonald sings Peg, and it's quite loud, and Al was like, "Yeah, I missed that one." But it's just so insanely loud. So that was definitely his mix, and he did say that that they're all sort of unsure whose mixes were used on what, so they all get credit for mixing pretty much. But I would say that, for example, I almost never used mics for vocals in Omni. I never really thought about it. And then he was like, "Oh, you should." Like he recommended. There's a couple of mics specifically that are not terribly expensive that he recommended, and said, "Yeah, just try doing make sure the room is nice and everything, but try doing the vocals using Omni. If you want them louder, just tell them to get closer because you don't get the proximity effect." And since then, that is kind of the only way I do vocals, and they always turn out fantastic. It's so good, and it's just like, man, the guy's he was such a wealth of knowledge, and also to see him and Steve Jenwick working together. Steve is, man, he's unbelievably good. They were a perfect pairing. And the last time I saw Al, was actually at Capitol Studios in LA. And I think there was like a lot of flooding going on at the time, so he was concerned about that. We talked about he took in all these rescue animals. He was really big on rescuing dogs and cats, and I think he had like the legal limit of how many animals you can have a house in LA. But my God, just.
Great
it's
guy.
It's so sad. He's such a great guy.
Yeah, well,
I
guess
world is
sometimes
just a little smaller without him now.
Yeah. I mean, like I say, I don't have any direct experience. I don't know whether you do, Dom. Whether he's, I'd imagine for any of us to have worked on anything that he mixed would probably mean we were working in slightly different circles.
It sounds like an amazing guy, and how amazing to not just know him, but to learn and be taught by him. Just incredible. No, I wish I'd known more about him. Paul Glenn in the chat mentioned his book, which I think sounds like a real read. It's called Al Schmitt on the Record: The Magic Behind the Music. And he was saying it was a must-read book, and it is available on Kindle and Amazon and stuff. So on Paul Glenn's in the chat, thank you, recommendation. I'm gonna grab that because it sounds brilliant.
Let me just post that link. I mean, this is an Amazon link. Obviously, you can get it in many other places as well, but I'll post that in the chat.
There's also, just so you know, there's an Al Schmitt plugin. There is.
Okay.
I think Leapwig makes it, and it's kind of a multifunction plugin. I haven't used it, and now just to honor him, I feel like getting it. I mean, I did get Capital Rooms, which is the UAD, but it's got the shellacked room that Al built. Like he took me to this room. Oh my God, it's the most disgusting place underneath the car park at Capitol Records. But it's a room that they went in and they shellacked it, so it's all like really shiny and obviously audio reflective too. This old speaker there, a couple of mics, and that was his that was his main reverb, which it sounds great, and the UAD version of that reverb sounds great too. So
yeah, I can confess we did. There's the other plugin. I'm just going to post the link into.
Oh, nice.
Post this in here. There we are. Yeah, well, I mean, not much we can say, but I mean, led a long and very full life by the sound of it. Well liked. I mean, what more can you ask? You know, out of life, that would be. I'd like to be thought of in those ways, though obviously not in any way as high achieving. But sad news. Okay,
Yes.
have we got what else have we got? There was there was another one. I'm sure
Resonator?
I had. Was that the resonance thing? Yeah, I thought that was it. Here we go. Transformer. This is an interesting. We'll finish with this. This is I've not really used resonators. I mean, I know there are some in Ableton Live, and this is a dedicated one, which will just has up to 4 resonators, tunable with lots of modulable parameters, allow you to kind of create these really interesting harmonic textures out of resonators. And I've never really explored any of these things. I must admit, this is a complete new world to me. Unfortunately, they don't get to the other demos very quickly, so it's quite an interesting idea. It's almost and I suppose it is in some ways quite similar to the idea of Coupler Strong, where you get these such tight frequencies that they ring, and you get very, very short and tonal stuff. I don't know, Dom, are you familiar with the Resonator? Is it something that you kind of reached
Only
for?
since you sent the link over earlier, and it does sound really interesting. And I've just sussed, Coupler Strong is basically granular, isn't it? It is taking a tiny little chunk.
Yeah, kind of.
And then
It's
just repeating
agitated. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just never connected the two like that. So to me, it sounds like a granular repeater echo type thing. Very, very, very tiny little samples extended over. I would love. I need to download it and check it because I'm hopefully not doing them a disservice. But I'd love more info on what's actually going on, just from the geek, because it's like there are 3 settings for your resonator: A, B, and C, and that's as far as it says. So I'd like to know kind of what A, B, and C do. Not that it matters because I can use my ears, but you know, I'd like a little bit more kind of background. Now that was from watching the video, not from reading the manual and everything. So I'm sure it goes into more depth. And I like the sound. It is granular synthesis, but it has a different type of control to it, the way they've laid it out. And maybe there's some more going on under the hood as well. But I like the way it's going to give me a new flavor or whatever with some different controls. So it shakes it up a little bit, which is nice. And certainly the ones I preferred were where the sound changed dramatically. So they'd have a drum loop and then they'd switch it on and suddenly the drum loop would pause and it would, dare I say, bloom out a little bit, but you had some control over that. And I wasn't so much of a fan of it as an effect on a snare drum or whatever, because it just sounded like a kind of granular.
It's the sort of thing you're trying forever to get rid of, not enhance.
Yeah. But where it was a statement, I think it was really effective. So I wanted to explore it more, but I didn't get a chance to download it before the show. But definitely, I like, you know, having put some plugins together. I'm liking the ones that do something different, you know, that actually change the game a little bit. And even if it's the same kind of methodology behind it that gives you different control over it, that can bring you something interesting. And this looks like one of those plugins to me, which is great.
Yeah, there's a little bit of I'll just play a little bit of this. I don't know whether this is the I mean, it can be used in quite ambient.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds nice. I don't know, Charles. Yeah, interesting. I'm just, like I say, I'm not familiar with resonators at all. I must explore them.
Well, we haven't been Ableton Live, and I use them occasionally in Ableton Live. This one, oh, by the way, I like the idea. I think Dom, I think you said this, the agitated chunk. I like the sound of that.
I'd like to claim responsibility for that, but
what is chunky funk? And it's like, so here we go with the same theme again, agitated chunk.
That might be a show title. Let's. I'll write that down.
Yeah. The what I heard on this one that I liked a lot was the way it sounded on bass. As strange as that is, it sort of did this sort of like a shimmer kind of reverb sound on bass, and I thought, oh, I really like the sound of that a lot. So maybe that's a good way to go with it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sorry,
it's also
I should
cheap,
say
too.
it's Rast sound. I forgot to mention AU. It works Mac and PC. €29 reduced from 39. So pretty cheap. Whereas far as plugins goes, right?
Yeah, it looks really good. And the only thing that would keep me from getting it is that there are so many options for things like that in Ableton.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it'd be too much for. But I don't know. That is awfully cheap. Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to force anybody into making any purchases, but did I post the link? I'll just post the link in case I hadn't posted it. I think I did, but I'll just put it in there anyway. Yeah, I think I might have done. Well, it feels like we're kind of towards the tail end of we haven't really got an and finally this week, apart from the.
Can I announce the winners of the Twitter?
Oh yes, that could
be a nice.
I've just all the colours just drained from me as you mentioned that, but that's not really fair. Right, okay, let me bring up the. Let's do that and do Dom. So
that would be awesome.
Last week you said you would give away 3 copies of your Incinerator plugin to 3 randomly selected Twitter followers that we hopefully generated.
Indeed. And we got 200 followers, which I think is astonishing. So if you ever fancy advertising on Sonicstate, anybody, it works. So the 3 lucky people out of the random number generator machine is Carl Armstrong, who is at Carl G.A. Armstrong, Athens441, who is at Athens441, and Bowery Boy, who is at Bowery Boy IRL. So I will tweet you and let you know serial numbers and everything for that. So thank you very, very much for entering. And I'll probably send a tweet to everyone else with maybe a discount voucher or something just for taking part, because I really appreciate you taking the time to join up and tweet me. So everyone's a winner. So thank you very, very much indeed for that.
Well, you're more than welcome, and thank you. It's the least we could do to repay you or any of our regular panelists for their continued free involvement, I might add. Your time is always much appreciated. I guess, though, that's kind of the end of the show. Thank you. Like I said, episode 666. I wonder what happens if I do that. Oh, Jesus, the button's stuck again. Hold on. And not only that, there we go. The real smoke, folks. I'll just have to get some of that out of the way. I hope it's not the greasy sort that gets stuck over everything. Let's have a look. There we go. Yeah. Episode 666 is kind of over. And thank you very much for listening and watching. It's been much appreciated. So, Charles, I'm hoping that you've got a little bit of free time now the weather's perked up and you're not going to be stuck indoors the whole time. Maybe we'll see a bit more of you, I hope.
I hope I can be here. I'm busy. Well, because Howard Jones is going to be hopefully doing some shows this summer, so we're about to start rehearsals on that for 2 weeks out near you, out at Real World Studios.
Well, that could be the perfect cue for the beginnings of a get-together. That sounds perfect.
Yes, absolutely. And I'll have my car out there, so I can always drive to wherever you are.
Excellent.
So we're doing like a couple weeks rehearsals out there, and then there's like a week, and then a week of downtime for us to order things that we need for the new setup, and then another week of rehearsals, and then hopefully we'll do some shows in June, and then of course I'll be wrapping up all my teaching this month. I think someone had asked earlier in the one I saw in one of the chats. It's London Metropolitan University for those of you who are wondering. And yeah, so that's what I'm up to for the next month. But I'll try to be here on Wednesdays if I can. Wow,
that's much appreciated. Thank you. Okay. Well, lovely to have you, Charles. And I think we're back to... there we go. Dominic Hawken. Back. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much for joining us. It's been fun as ever. Episode 666. If I do, am I still red? Yeah, I suppose I should have made that for everybody. That was Sonic Talk episode 666. Only going to happen once. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. We'll see you all next time. Take care. Bye bye now.